Okay, welcome everyone. We've got a great group of people attending this webinar today, so I'm excited. Let me start by introducing myself and Michael Janney, both from Cyber Science. Michael's going to be watching the questions as they come in and interrupting me from time to time to make sure we cover all those questions. So I can't see questions directly or hear people's input or asking questions. So Michael's going to kind of watch the screen. There's a little, little question area within the webinar menu that allows you to type in a question. So please ask those questions. Michael will, interrupt me and we'll answer those questions as they come along. But my name is Jim Mon, and I'm going to be doing the demonstration for you today. And really just want to, keep this fairly interactive, because if you like what you see in the session today, we'd be happy to send you a copy of the PowerPoints, a link to the recording of this session, or even the free evaluation test drive version of the software. So let's just get started. We're going to go about 60 minutes. We'll save some time for questions, but we'll just try to go through everything as quickly as we can within the 60 minutes. So agenda for today, we're going to talk about, what are typical customer requirements when they start looking for a good reporting BI dashboard solution when it comes to visual. We're going to talk about customer case studies. How do people use the software today? We'll talk about the product. Again, the product is called Cyberquery, or CQ. You might hear me also refer to it as Enterprise Cyberquery, or ECQ. We've shortened the name. None of the functionality has been lost. Just a way of saving breath for all of us. We'll spend most of our time just showing you the software and how it works with visual. And then again, if you like what you see, there's going to be a survey at the end. Just complete the survey and say, yeah, send me a link to the recording, send me the PowerPoints, send me the free download. And we'll be happy to work with you on all of those. Okay, so requirements. When we talk to people, the number one thing that they ask us for is easy access to their visual data. And oftentimes it doesn't just end at visual. They'll say, hey, I want to be able to access visual and or Sightline or CSI or CPQ or Infor CRM or Salesforce or even SAP or Oracle or whatever. With Cyberquery, you can access any data you have. One of the nice things about Cyberquery is it is read-only. So just because people have access to Cyberquery does not mean they're going to be able to modify any of your ERP data. So it's very safe in that regard. Second thing they ask for is what kind of charts, reports, analytics can we do with Cyberquery? And I'm going to show you that as we go through the demonstration today, including things like being able to schedule and distribute via email, have links in the reports where you can click and drill down, or even links in the Excel spreadsheets that we generate where a user can be looking at a spreadsheet of an income statement or something like that and go click, click, click to drill down to get any level of detail they want to see. We'll also output data to PDF, HTML, text files, you name it. The third thing is the whole power and functionality side. There's a lot of pretty tools out there that let you do simple sorts and lists. But really, the thing that differentiates Cyberquery from the other tools out there is the whole power side, being able to do an income statement with drill down or a balance sheet or an audit report, bills of materials, any kind of logistics or sales analysis. You can do that with Cyberquery. We are accessing the production data directly. Some people will put the data in a separate data warehouse, but that's not required or even recommended because Cyberquery is read-only. It's super fast. Dashboards, we'll talk about those. We'll show you a bunch of examples, really just to be designed to be very colorful, impressive for the executives so they can go click, click, click to drill down to get any level data they need. Finally, we'll talk about the pricing, and the software is very reasonably priced. You can license the software any way you like, month to month, annually, or on a perpetual basis. So we try to be easy to do business with. Okay, we'll get into more details on all those subjects as we go through, but here's just kind of a sampling of some of the people using Cyberquery. We have over 4,000 customers using Cyberquery. Some use it with manufacturing systems. Some people use it with healthcare systems or leasing systems or anywhere in between. But we support big guys and little guys and everybody in between. I want to start off with a story. This is one of our customers, the guys at Stingray Boats. They met us at one of the user conferences and basically said, hey, we've tried some of the Infor recommended tools and they just don't seem to have the power. So they said, here's a report that we want you to do. So we said, okay, great. Let us send you the test drive software. We'll install it and we'll write that report with you against your production data. So here's a report they tried to do, using one of the Infor tools. They couldn't do it. It just didn't have the power. This report looks pretty simple over here on the left-hand side, where you're just looking at orders by boat, the colors, the customer, the motors, that kind of stuff. But where it gets complex is on the right side of this report, where you have to recursively join back into the various job tables to figure out when does a particular boat go into a given work center and when is it scheduled to complete that work center, so you can determine whether the boat's on time or whether it's late. Because if it's late, you want to be able to drill down and figure out, what is a new projected delivery date for this boat. But again, reports that are too difficult to do in the simple tools out there, you can do very easily in Cyberquery just by dragging and dropping. We'll get into more reports like this, but again, obviously we did this report. This customer is very happy. This report they were originally doing in Excel, but they could only do it once a day. With Cyberquery now, they can generate this report in about 20 seconds, so they can run it multiple times a day. Okay, and the bottom line is that we know visual, we know manufacturing, we know BI, we can help you in all kinds of reports and dashboards. Here's another interesting report, a little story behind this one. This customer was doing, again, the test drive, and their auditors came in and said, hey, we've noticed that your AR balance has decreased by $385,000 over the last year. Can you tell us which customers have gone up and which customers have gone down in terms of the AR balance? So the controller said, hey, this sounds like a job for Cyberquery. So they came back to us and said, hey, we've got this request from the auditors. Can you help us out? We said, sure. So we basically took an AR aging report and just modified it to support two input fields. Those input dates basically say, I want to see any AR balance changes between date A and date B by customer, top 20 increases, top 20 decreases. And again, gives them a real nice layout to see which customers have reduced their AR load and which ones have increased it. So again, reports that may be, again, too complex to even contemplate, you can do very quickly in Cyberquery. So one of the things we like to say is that there's no report too difficult for Cyberquery. So again, if there's any report that you want to challenge us with, more than happy to pick up the challenge and show you how to do that report in Cyberquery. Okay, here's just a good old reference from our friends at Independent Can. Independent Can sent me an email and said, hey, Jim, the addition of Cyberquery helped us rescue our ERP implementation. Our associates were ready to abandon the project because they were not able to access their information easily. The data was in the system, but they could not see it in the format they wanted. CQ permitted us to bridge the gap and drive deeper system acceptance. We are now able to leverage all of our information for faster and more accurate decisions. And that's really the bottom line. I mean, that's why you want a tool like Cyberquery, is to be able to go in and look at your data in the way that you want to see it. When we push them a little bit more to say, okay, specifically, why did you buy Cyberquery? They said, number one, we want to consolidate data across multiple sites and databases. And Cyberquery does that very nicely. They wanted to automatically email the executives dashboards, and IT didn't want to have to come in and babysit those jobs. So again, you can set those up and they can just run on demand. They were looking for something easy and fast, and that's really the bottom line for Cyberquery. They want to train the department users, and then the department users could build 80, 90% of their own reports. They're looking for a replacement for manual consolidation in the financial area. And again, Cyberquery does that nicely. And an ability to deliver on promise. So if they promised a user a report or a dashboard, they knew they could deliver it quickly and easily with Cyberquery. They were also looking for something cheap. We asked them to change cheap to be cost effective. But again, the software is very reasonably priced. And we'll get into that pricing here in a couple of slides. Here's another dashboard we did. These guys, actually, it was the operations manager came to us and said, hey, I'd like to have my own dashboard that refreshes every 5 minutes. And I want to be able to look at this and see, where do I have issues? So he came up with this idea of the stoplight. So a green stoplight means no jobs over standard in that work center group. A yellow stoplight means one job over standard. And then a red stoplight means more than one job over standard. So you can look at this dashboard and say, I got an issue in the turret group. He clicks on turret and drills down and sees the individual work centers within the turret group. And again, whether they're red, green, or yellow. He can click on a work center and drill down and see the jobs that are currently open in that work center. He can then click on a job and drill all the way down to see who are the people logging time against that job, and are they over or under the standard in terms of minutes. So you can start off again with a real high view. As a matter of fact, this dashboard was so successful, they put it on a touchscreen monitor out on the shop floor. So people can just walk around and with a greasy finger, they can go tap, tap, tap to get the data they want to see. Okay, here's another example. This is pulling in data from Salesforce in the cloud. Here's their ERP, and then the corporate budget is maintained in Excel. But again, with Cyberquery, they can pull data together from all three sources, and a user just comes in here and they go click, and now they can drill down and see the details behind the Excel, the Salesforce, and the ERP data, and group the two together by customer ID or whatever. But again, pulling data from multiple sources is something that Cyberquery does very nicely for you. Okay, now just a high level. When people ask you about, when you ask about Cyberquery, they're going to say, hey, it just works. Whether the user's an executive clicking on a dashboard, or an end user who's dragging and dropping fields to build a report, or a power user who wants to slice and dice and drill down through all the data, or even a developer who may want to look at the syntax behind all the pretty screens. Users don't have to see the syntax, and most never do, but it's there depending on the user who wants to build the reports or the dashboards. From an administration perspective, it takes less than 30 minutes a week to administer Cyberquery, so very minimal administration. Second bullet is power. Again, any report you can dream of doing, you can do in Cyberquery. Third bullet is performance. The software's fast. It's installed on a server in your environment, so your data never leaves your premises. And people just come in and go click, click, click. Because the software is server-based, it makes it very easy to control security and share reports and allow people to see the data in the format they want it. Speaking of security, you can secure data at the site, database, table, row, all the way down to the column value level if you need to. So you can do security by reseller, security by project or contract, job, however you want to impose security, you can do it within Cyberquery. And then licensing. Again, you can license the software perpetually, just buy it outright, annually, or month to month. And honestly, because so many people have been burned by other reporting tools, almost everybody starts monthly, and then they'll upgrade to the annual or perpetual plan whenever it's convenient for them. Some people never do. But again, any option you want, you don't have to mortgage the farm to get into the software. A typical license let's say somebody's got like 5 developers and 20 runtime launchpad users. I'll explain what those users mean in a second. But that's kind of I'm going to say, average to larger size customer, 5 developers and 20 runtime users. The price of the software in that regard is probably going to be in that $1,600 a month. Additional users are, something like $19 a month. People that you just send reports to, we call them consumers. There's no charge for consumers. So again, you could write an income statement that gets sent to everybody in the company, nightly or monthly or whatever. People that are receiving reports are consumers, no charge for consumers. It's only people that actually go in and start drilling down that become runtime users. But again, you'll see that when we get into the demo. But we've got smaller licenses, 2 developer, 3 developer, whatever you want. We can match it up for you. So just talk to myself or Michael on that. Okay, now Cyberquery not only can read across multiple databases, it can read across multiple modules within your application. It can consolidate the data down to a single row if you want. And again, a user just clicks. And to click, all the user needs is a standard browser. So we support all the major browsers, whether it's Internet Explorer, Internet Edge, or Microsoft Edge, Firefox, Chrome, even Safari. So if you have executives walking around with iPads or iPhones, they can get their reports. They can even build reports from an iPad or an iPhone. But again, a user comes in just from their browser and they say, okay, what's going on with the cost of materials? They click, drill down. So here's cost of materials broken down by ledger account. They click again. They can now drill down and see the finalized transactions for that ledger account for that time period. Anytime they want, they can export the data to Excel, PDF, HTML kind of format just by clicking there. And again, I'll show you that in a second. Here's an interesting example of a report. This is an invoice, obviously, but the interesting thing about it is the top third, that's data coming out of the standard ERP visual system. The bottom 2/3, that's data coming out of CPQ. So again, Cyberquery can pull data together from multiple sources, present it as if it were from a single database or document. But again, it just makes it easy to access any data you might happen to have. Now, as you build reports and you want to share those reports, you publish them to the Cyberquery Launchpad. Now, this Launchpad is completely customizable by you. So your own logos, color schemes, graphics over here, tree structure on the left. But again, a user comes in from their browser and they just go click. Okay, here's an example of what this customer calls their job board. This refreshes every 5 minutes and basically shows by work center, what's the load projected in that work center, and what are the jobs in priority sequence. So when a user finishes with job A, they know that this is the next job they need to log into. Okay, now Cyberquery's also got a great Excel interface. We don't just print to Excel as if it were a sheet of paper. We actually output sums and maxes and mins wherever possible. We've also got a great Excel add-in. Now, my background, I'm an accountant, so I like Excel. This is something that I put together. This blue data, the green data, the gray data, that's all coming out of the visual. These light yellow cells are just the input fields that drive these reports. These charts are just good old Excel charts. And these bright yellow columns, those are local variables at the Excel level. So I can build this spreadsheet, build a forecast, save it, send this to my boss. He or she can open that and just click refresh or change these input values. Cyberquery then reaches back into visual, updates these ranges, but doesn't overwrite anything that I've done at the Excel level. But all these values are driven off of this data. So new forecasts will be generated, charts will be updated, all that automatically via Excel. So some users, never see Cyberquery, but they're pulling in data with Cyberquery from visual all day long. Okay, Cyberquery also supports all kinds of barcodes and QR codes. Here's an example of a costed and indented bill of material being output to Excel. Here's a bill of material with a routing on top of it. And then here's just some sample dashboards, object types. So Cyberquery supports all your major graphics, whether it's a heat map, like this map of Australia, a bubble chart over here on the right. But again, a user comes in here, they just go click, click, click to drill down. You can also set up security within your dashboard. So, California sees California data, Colorado, Colorado, Utah, Utah, etc. But again, users just come in here and they go click to drill down to the data they want to see. Here's an example of a bubble chart superimposed upon a map of the US. And then here's a map of the US just showing purchasing power. Again, users come in here, they just go click to drill down. This is an example of a scorecard. This is product code going down the left-hand column, and these are just various accounting groupings going across the top. But again, users come here, they click on any of these lights to drill down to the data they want to see. Now, here's the one technical slide in the presentation. So Cyberquery is what we like to call a dictionary-driven environment. Now, this dictionary gets built automatically. So when you download that link of Cyberquery and install the software, there's a little utility that's called the Visual Toolkit. This Visual Toolkit goes out there and looks at your visual environment. So it picks up any custom tables, any custom fields, and builds this dictionary for you automatically. Now, the dictionary is just the metadata. It's not the data, it's the pointers to the data. So it's table name, field name, column headers, masks, relationships, all that kind of stuff that you need. So the data stays in the database, and we're just using this dictionary as a roadmap to get to that data. But it brings in both the native and the user-friendly table names and field names. Most importantly, especially for an accounting type person like me, it brings in all the joins. So I just click and drag from any field. Cyberquery figures out how to write the SQL behind the scenes to go out and grab that data out of Visual. The system can handle multiple sites right out of the box. It can handle multiple databases and or applications in a single dictionary, or you can have a separate dictionary for each application. For example, you might have one dictionary for Visual, a second dictionary for Visual 11, and a third dictionary for CPQ, and a fourth that pulls them all together. So again, you can have as many as you want, makes no difference to us. The other nice thing about the dictionary is it translates some of the funny data types that Infor likes to use. So for example, timestamps, we've created a sister field for every timestamp that's a regular date. The manufacturing people love timestamps because it shows hour, minute, and second when a job starts and stops. But the accountants or the salespeople, they don't care about hour, minute, and second. They just want to know, did an order come in on that date? If so, we count it. If not, we don't count it. So Cyberquery builds a sister field for every timestamp that's a regular date. Just makes it a lot easier to work with the data. We also handle all the enumerated and text and notes fields within Visual. Now, the reason the system is so fast, we're talking directly, natively, to the underlying database, whether it's SQL, Progress, Informix, DB2, Oracle, or any other ODBC data source. So MySQL, Access, Excel, we can read data from pretty much any source out there, including web-based systems like Salesforce or other products that may be in the cloud, payroll systems, whatever. We even handle flat files, but again, we can bring together all the data that you need. There's also a concept within the data dictionary that we call viewpoints. So a viewpoint is a way to limit what a given user may see. So for example, the salespeople may not see any native visual tables. They're just going to see some Cyberquery data marts or data warehouses or what have you. Somebody in purchasing might see 10 or 20 tables. Somebody in finance might see 100 or 200 tables, but they don't need to be dealing with all 1,200 tables in Visual 11. Support. Now, in addition to all the software, we've got a great support team. We're about 100-person company, so still relatively small, very friendly folks, located here in Denver, Colorado. If you have a question, you pick up the phone, you call your favorite support rep. They answer your question immediately. You can also log a call. You can interact with our people any way you like. Average tenure on the support line is more than 8 years. So our people know the software inside and out. They can answer any question you might have. They also have a good understanding of ERP systems and Visual because they helped us build some of our report library. We also got great training. You can do it either remotely or on site. Again, whatever works best for you. Okay, kind of a graphic summarizing what we just talked about. Starting down here at the bottom, all a user needs is a major browser. From the browser, they're going to connect to that Cyberquery server, just any old Windows box. One user may connect in and may only see one table or maybe only one site worth of data. Another user connecting to the same server may see multiple tables or multiple sites, maybe even multiple applications. They may or may not see other ECQ data marts and cubes, but it's all controlled by you. So users go in and grab the data. There's also a complete scheduling as well as macro or scripting capability that surrounds the entire product. So for example, you can build one job that runs the first day of every month that generates 50 financial statements. The accountants go in and look at those statements and say, oh, we forgot to do this or we need to do that. They go back into Visual, enter those transactions, come back, click the button again, and regenerate their 50 statements. So again, it's going to make closing books a whole lot easier. Okay, this is what we mean by the test drive. So again, if you like what you see, we'll just send you a free evaluation copy of the software. We'll help you install it and configure it, build some proof of concept reports, give you some basic training, and then we go away and let you play with the software. If you like it, you keep it. If you don't like it, send it back to us, all at no cost. So that's the test drive. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Michael. We'll help you any way we can. Let's get out of PowerPoint right now. And I'm going to jump over here to my browser. Let me maximize that screen. I'm just using Chrome. So I've just logged into the software, and I'm going to click OK. Now, my environment's busy, just because I can show you data from Infor or Oracle or SAP, Microsoft, Epicor, Glovia, you name it. We're going to focus on Infor. Within Infor, we support all their major ERPs, whether it's Infor LN or Bond, Sightline, Visual, M3, SXC, Lawson, BPIX, PRMS, list goes on and on and on. We're going to concentrate on Visual. So now as a user comes in, not every user is going to see every module within Cyberquery. So Cyberquery HTML is where you go to build a report. Command line, we use that during setup, don't use it a whole lot after that. The Launchpad is where most users are going to land. So I'll show you that first. The Dictionary Manager is where you maintain that dictionary environment. So if you want to, for example, if you said, okay, I want to change everything from being part to being item or whatever, or vice versa, you can do that. So you can have your own naming conventions for your tables and fields. That's all just part of the dictionary. You can also define new relationships, bring in new data sources, whatever it might be. CQ Publish is the module that lets you take a report from Cyberquery HTML and publish it to the Launchpad. And then Q Director is the scheduling package. Again, you got to report how often do you want it to run. So depending on your organization, some people will say, okay, these people can build reports, but it's going to be a subset who can actually publish or schedule. But again, that's your call. You figure that out depending on what you know about your people. But let's go in here, and I'm just going to start by clicking on the Launchpad. I'm going to make this Launchpad a little bit bigger. Again, this is all customizable by you, logos, color schemes, graphics. But for example, if I click on Finance and say, okay, I want to go look at my financial statements, and here's a financial dashboard. We'll go out and just click on that and run this financial dashboard. Now, this reads a couple millions of rows, so it does take a second just to lay this out. But it's going to go through here and show me income versus owner's equity on a month-by-month basis. So that green is income, that blue is owner's equity, that pink line is return on equity. So again, I can just come in here and say, hey, let's go, what's going on? I click on one of these months, system was out there, and in this case, it's going to generate me an income statement for that period. And again, I can just pick on any of these values, go click, drill down. I can export that data to Excel, PDF, HTML, or Cyberquery format. I can email it. I can do whatever I want with it. But again, I just click, click, click to get the data I want to see. Even things as complex as an income statement like this one. I mean, this is showing current period, percent of sales, year to date, prior year, budget, all of that. But again, I'm just in here with my browser, and I'm just clicking around. So here's an example in the sales area. Now, if I click on that little plus sign, it's going to kind of give me a snapshot of this data, showing me gauges. So Cyberquery supports something like 16 different gauge types. So this is a flat gauge. That's a speedometer. This is actually a gauge. This wine bottle, it fills up as the sales reps reach quota. So you can do all kinds of clever things like that with your data. I can also go out here and just say, okay, I just want to run a report. If I click on that runner, it's going to go out there and run the report for me. And in this case, it's going to show me sales in kind of a more normal dashboard kind of look and feel, where it's showing me revenue by year by month and margin year by month. So here's revenue, here's margin, here's revenue versus margin percentage line. But again, a user comes in here, clicks on any of these lines or these values or these months, and just says click. And in this case, the system is going to drill me down, show me another report where I can now see that revenue number broken down by sales rep. And you'll see those little expansion and collapse arrows in front of the name. So if I click on that arrow in front of Adam Wilson, you can see I can expand and collapse by sales rep. I can come in here, I can pick any of these values. Most users know if they see a blue underscore, they can click and drill down. I can still export it, do whatever I want to do. But again, users and the end users really just need a browser and the ability to click. Now, see, let me go back here into sales. So these reports again, all a user does is go click. As you publish reports, you specify whether the report can be run, whether it can be cloned, and clone means make a copy, let the user edit that copied version. You could, although you probably don't want to allow somebody to edit a published report. Users can also subscribe to a report. I'm going to click on that option. Subscribe is designed to get IT out of the business of pushing reports to the users. This lets the user come in here and say, hey, I like this report. I want to start receiving it after the current time, on the current date, and then every X number of minutes, hours, days, weekdays, weeks, months, etc. I can specify, hey, don't send me the report if there's no qualifying records, just by checking that box right there. I can specify the email address where the reports are being sent, and then the format, whether it's going to be HTML5, text, Excel, PDF, or a Cyberquery format. So again, kind of pick my favorite and then subscribe or unsubscribe to any of these reports. So again, it makes it that easy for the users to pull data to their desktop rather than IT having to push everything to their desktop. So with that being said, let's actually go out here and let's build some reports from scratch. So we're going to go in here and I'm just going to go out and say, let's go look at building a report using Cyberquery HTML. Now, as I go into build a report, the system's going to start me out in the wizard. This wizard just walks us through the process of building a report. So it says, okay, do you want to do a list report? That's good old rows and columns. Do I want to do a summary or a crosstab or pivot table-like report? Do I want to do a plot or a chart, labels of any size and format? Or I can start with an existing inquiry and modify that. But we're going to do several of these today. I'm going to click on a list report first, and I'm going to say next. The system says, okay, where do you want to go? Now we're looking at, this is a Visual 10 data dictionary. You can kind of scroll through here. You can see all the tables in there. For example, if I typed CUST, here's all the tables that have CUST either in the name or in the description. I want to come in here and I want to go look at my, I'm going to type in here the word part. Let's go look at our part table. To build a report, all I do is select fields from the table or the collection of tables that I've selected. So I'm going to say I want to get my part ID, and I can click and drag, or I can double click. So here's description, here's unit of measure. I think I want to get, in this case, I want to get product code, and maybe I want to get, I'm just scrolling through here. I'm going to say I want to get my, let's do this. I want to say I want to get my quantity on hand, and I want to get my, let's get my quantity, or here's unit cost, and I want to get my, well, I'm going to come up here in the filter, I'm going to type quantity, QTY. So with that, I can say, okay, I want to bring in here, I want to get my quantity used year to date. I'm going to grab that field and I'm just going to drag it in here and drop it. I can resequence fields just by going click, drag, drop. But notice the system's already figured out my linkages to various other tables. So if I said, hey, I want to bring in something from any of these other related tables, like customer order, I just click that arrow, grab the field. I've still got the word quantity up there in that filter. Let me get rid of that. But now I can bring in, other information from any table. And again, Cyberquery just, I just drag and drop. Cyberquery figures out how to do the joins. When I'm happy with the fields I've selected, I just click next. And the system says, okay, do you want to sort in the report? I'll say, yeah, let's do that. Let's say I want to sort here to be different. I'm going to sort on product code. And then within product code, I'm going to sort on ID. I'll click next. The system says, okay, do you want to select records? Now I'm going to double click on description. Because we support so many different databases, we have pretty much every comparison operator or Boolean operator known to mankind. So all the standard less than or equal to, greater than, equal to. But all kinds of things like matches, does not match, is between, does not between, begins with, ends with, contains is like, just again, does not end with. I mean, anything you want. In my case, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to hit cancel because I just want to hit finish. Because I want to show you how fast the software is. Okay, we just went out there and we read, if you look down here in the very bottom part of the screen, we read 53,000 rows, generated almost 1,100 pages of output. And if I click that little blue circle, it'll tell me we did that in 1 second. So again, the software is super fast. But again, it's all click and drag. So this is kind of the main screen in the reporting environment. And I can open and close more windows by clicking here. So if I click it once, now we're looking at a real simple view where we just have our view into the data dictionary and the report. If I click it a second time, it's going to open my selection window, my sort areas. But again, I'm just clicking and dragging. So if I said, oh, I want to get ABC code, I'm going to grab ABC code and I'm just going to drop it into my report right there next to unit of measure. And you can see I just go click, drag, drop that easily. If I want to do a calculation, well, I'll show it first. I'm going to take ABC code. I'm going to highlight it and do a right mouse click. Everything's left mouse, right mouse. I click right mouse. It shows me all my options. So I can delete that column, move to the parking lot. The parking lot's that lower left-hand corner you see over there. I can insert a copy, invert the selection list, optimize the display width. I can do anything I want. In our case, let's say, I'm going to say I want to delete. So I delete it, and now ABC's gone. I might say, oh, I really wanted it in there. No problem. I can click undo, and now it's back in there. So it's unlimited levels of undo and redo. But let's do that. I'm going to say, okay, let's do a calculation. I'm going to highlight unit cost, and I'm going to also highlight, I'm going to use quantity used. Do a right mouse click. And again, I can delete those columns. I can move to the parking lot, insert copies. In my case, I could also concatenate. I could add the two columns together. I can subtract the first from the second or the second from the first, or I can multiply. I'm going to say multiply. So this goes out there and creates a new column for me. Unit cost times quantity used year to date. I'm going to double click on that column header. And I'm going to call this one year to date cost, something like that. Maybe I'll force it all to uppercase by clicking there. And I'm going to say, okay. So now I've got a new column header. I'm going to say, you know what? I don't need 8 decimals in there. I'm going to do a right mouse click. I'm going to go to my item properties. And I'm going to say, this is a number. And I only want to see 2 decimal places. I'm going to say, okay. So there we've got our 2 decimal places. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, here's my year-to-date column. I'm going to right mouse click on it. And I'm going to say, I want to sort that column descendingly. I'm going to make that my primary sort. So we'll get it, up at the top of the report. So we can see what our most expensive items are year to date. So it looks like this switch panel is the most expensive item. But again, I just click and drag. I can come in here and say, you know what, let's really focus on our A parts. I'm going to highlight an A, do a right mouse click and say, just show me my A's. Click A. Now we're just looking at our A's. And you'll notice now we're down to 1,400 rows in the report. But again, it's all click, drag, drop, left mouse, right mouse. So very easy for your users to use. The other thing nice about the product is it looks a lot like Excel. So people that know Excel will pick up Cyberquery very quickly. Here's new, open, save, print, print preview, undo, redo. And remember, those are unlimited levels. The system works with a virtual page, so I can have as many columns as I want. Anytime I want, I can click that runner button to say refresh the report. And if I'm quick enough, I can hit the stop button and say, okay, SQL, I've got enough rows. So you don't need to read 30 million rows just to start laying out a report, read a few thousand, say stop, go look at it. Okay, next icon over is my schedule. I'm going to click on that. It says, okay, Jim, you got to save this report. So, okay, let's save it. And I'm going to call this one Visual 04. Hopefully that's a unique name. It says, okay, great. Which queue do you want to use? I'm just using one little queue on my little laptop here. It says I'm going to set a title just so I know that this is my sample report. I'm going to click next. The system says, do you want to submit for immediate execution or submit with a pattern? So let's create a pattern. I want this report to run at, here, we'll make it 4:42 starting tomorrow morning. And I want it to repeat every other weekday from now until the end of time. Or I could say, no, you know what? I want this to run during working hours, and I want it to run every 4 hours. You can do all kinds of things like that. Let's go back to every other day. I'll say, okay. And I'm going to click next. The system says, do you want to be emailed every time this job is completed? I'll say, no, that's going to be too much. But I do want an email anytime there's an error with this report. And then, by the way, send the output to my email address, space, Michael's address, space, other people's addresses. It's just a space delimited list of email addresses. And I'm going to say, you know what? We want to see this report in, the default is HTML, but we could say, no, let's go out to Excel or PDF, or we can specify Excel. It doesn't make any difference. I'll say Excel. I'll say next. The system says what priority you want to put on this, low or medium, low or normal. I'll say low. And if I say finish, it's going to go ahead and generate, that batch job to run every other day. I'm going to hit cancel just because I don't need to see that. But again, it's that easy, even for an accountant like myself, to build a batch job. Now I'm going to click on this next icon. Here's Excel. So if I'm going to click on there, the system is going to go out there and dump that report into my into Excel for me. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to just open Excel. And so here's that report. We just dumped it into Excel that easily. If I scroll down here to the bottom, and so we're still working with a good amount of data. It's still 1,400 rows, but you can see how fast the system is. But if I click on any of these columns, you'll see that it came in as an Excel function. It's not just a printed value. So that's nice for the Excel user. I'm going to scroll back up here to the top because I want to show you the Excel add-in. I'm going to click right there, and I'm going to click on Cyberquery to open the Cyberquery ribbon, and I'm going to say, let's insert a report from my local machine. It goes out there, makes me log in. So even though I've logged in through my browser, I still have to log in again, coming in through Excel. But I can use the same user ID. I can come in here, say, let's go look at my my visual data. It's kind of connecting to the server, so it does take it a couple of seconds. So we'll do that. And I got a whole bunch of reports out, so it does take it a little bit of time to do that. Yeah, because I think I've got like 2,500 reports out there. I'm going to say, okay, great. Here's the reports. I can pull in any one I want. Let's go look at this sales detail report. And now the system asked me 5 questions. It says, okay, for this report, when we pull it in, do you want any prompts for the report to appear in the spreadsheet or come in via a separate pop-up dialog? I like them in the spreadsheet, so I'm going to choose that option. It says, do you want to include refresh time? I'll say, yeah, that's always important. It says, do you want to include the server information? I'll say, no, that's too much. But I do want my Excel formatting to take precedence over the report. So any formatting I do at Excel, that's going to govern. I'll say finish. System goes out there, grabs that report, drops in any input values, go ahead and runs the report. And here now we've got that report coming in, from visual just that quickly. But the nice thing is this data is Excel. So for example, I can click right there and I can go home. I can say do an auto sum. So it's auto sum those 3 columns. And I'm going to take that calculation and I'm going to just, drag it down here a ways. I'm not going to go all the way to the bottom, but just drag it down there a ways. And again, this data is Excel. So I can do anything I can do with Excel. So for example, I might say, let's bold that column. And maybe I want to write justify it. And maybe I want the background color to be yellow. I can do all of that. Again, but I just click and drag, do whatever I want to do at the Excel level. Now, if you look closely at the report, you can see we're pulling in data from company 100, 200, 524. I'm going to change that. So rather than looking at 100 through 525, let's change that to be 100 through 100. I'm going to hit return right now. System goes out there and that quickly refreshes my data, but notice my calculations continue to work as I set them up before. So you really get the best of both worlds. You get fast, secure access to all your visual data, and yet the ability to do whatever modeling or forecasting you want to do at the Excel level. Okay, I'm going to shrink that down. We may come back to Excel in a second. So there we've got Excel. If I click here, we get an HTML version of the report or PDF or comma separated value, and I can change the delimiter to be any symbol I want, pipes or stars or hats or whatever. I can email the report. Now we're currently in the visual edit. It lets me do all the dragging and dropping. If you ever need to see the syntax, all you do is click on the keyboard. So here's the syntax behind the report. Now most users never see the syntax, but it's nice to have it there in case you ever want to do a global search and replace. You can do that against the syntax. Okay, also, if you look closely, you see there's a little scroll next to my cursor. That lets me do the dragging and dropping. Let's see, if I click on I'll show you the drill in a minute. The paintbrush lets me control font, style, and color. So I highlight a column. I'm going to say, let's bold it. Let's make it a little bit bigger here. Let's make it 16 points in size. And I'll make my background color. We'll go with a light blue. So, okay. So there you can see we've got item highlighted. I can also do conditional highlighting. For example, I'm going to say, you know what, if I've got my unit cost, and it's going to be, I'm just going to pick on one. I'm going to say unit cost, and I'm going to say add a highlight value. I'm going to say if my unit cost is greater than or equal to, let's do something. We'll do something fairly small, like $10. I'm going to say I want my background color to be, we'll make it kind of a gold color. We'll say, okay, we'll apply it to the whole line. So now we can spot real quickly anytime our unit cost is greater than $10. And we can have multiple layers of coloring going on. So you can have reds and blues and greens, whatever you need. So that's the paintbrush. Next icon over is the camera. Camera lets me insert logos or pictures of employees or pictures of items or parts or whatever. Next icon over is my border tool. The border tool lets me draw boxes and banners and just kind of highlight areas in general. So again, I highlight an area and do a right mouse click. Everything's left mouse, right mouse. I go to my border properties. I'll say, let's make this look striped. And maybe my striping is going to be, since I used blue before, let's make this, we'll make it kind of a light kind of rose color. We'll say, okay. We'll say, okay. So now you can see the striping is going on throughout a report. And now if I dump this data into Excel, all the formatting, all the coloring, everything except the logos is going to be handed down to Excel. So again, it's that easy. Click, drag, drop. That's all the users need to know. Let's do another report where I can show you the drill. So I'm going to click on New. The system says, do you want to save your report? I'll say, yeah, let's save it. I'm going to do a sum report this time. and kind of just count the keystrokes. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to look at my sales table, and I want to look at this one called sales lines, and I'll look at that field called amount. I'm just going to double click on amount, and I'm going to say I want to see amount. Amount's my extended order value. I'm going to take that and I want to see it by my address table, which has got my name field in there. And I'm going to say next, and it says, okay, do you want to go across? I'll say, yeah, let's go across by my order date. I'm just going to double click on that. And you'll see by default, it's saying, okay, we're going to do a year. We're going to group it by year in total. If I have a question, again, right mouse click, go to my item properties, and I'm going to look at my sort. So the system by default said year with totals. I might say, nah, I want to do year and quarter, or maybe I want to do year and month. I'll go all the way down to maybe I want to do ISO year, ISO weeks, but I'm going to go back to year. We'll just do it by year with the total. I could do maxes or mins. We'll just go with that. I'm going to say finish. And the system goes out there and that quickly generates this report showing me sales by customer name across year and amount. And I can say, okay, great, that's all I want. Or I might say, no, I need more information. I want to go back, and I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to grab my general item information, and I'm going to pull in here. Here's my description. If I grab description, I'm going to pull it in here and just drop it. So now I'm looking at sales by customer, the product description, and the amount they purchased over these 3 years. If I take description and put it in front of name, now I'm looking at sales by product, then by customer, again, year and amount. So again, I just click and drag. And this is why some people describe Cyberquery as like an Excel pivot table on steroids, where every field in visual is available as your pivot table. Again, I just click and drag. I can highlight that column. I can hit my delete button, and it's gone. I want to show you this. In my data, I didn't have email addresses, so I create a little Excel spreadsheet with email. I'm just going to go click, drag, drop. So now I've got name coming out of Visual SQL, email address coming out of Excel, then back to Visual or SQL for the rest of my report. So again, I just click and drag from any data source and drop it into the report that I might need. Okay, so we've got that. I also want to show you the drill. So now with the drill, I can drill down into any given cell, column, row combination. I'm going to highlight 2022, 2024, do a right mouse click, and I can say, I want to restrict to just those even years. So there's even years. I can say undo. I can do the same thing with rows. I can even do things where I might say, okay, BP ship to, BP all rolls, and Steve at Big Mart are really the same group. I'm going to create a new category, and we'll call it BP. Say, okay, so now those 3 rows are consolidated down to BP. I'm going to click undo, but again, it's that easy, left mouse, right mouse. I can also drill down and say, okay, what did Lowe's buy in 2022? Just do a right mouse click, and I'm going to say I want to drill down, and now I can pick any item I've used before, but let's say I want to get a new one. I'm going to say, let's go back up and get description for a second. So I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to go back to my general item data. I'm going to grab that field called description, drag it in there, drop it, highlight it, say okay. So now we've drilled down where year equals 2022, customer name equals Lowe's headquarters, and here are the products that they bought. Again, kind of group, and I'll say, wow, they bought a whole bunch of cabinets. Let's right mouse click again. I'm going to drill down. I'm going to use my order number here. So now we can see here are the individual order numbers, and I might come in here and say, okay, I want to see my, maybe I want to see my, let's type in here. I'm typing here the word price. Okay, I can grab price, just drag it and drop it anywhere I like. So there's the price that we charged. I can type in here quantity. Now I'm looking at, here's the quantity ordered, and I'll put that right in front of price. But again, I just click and drag, navigate through my data that easily. When I'm happy, or when I say, okay, let's go back, I can do undo, undo, undo. And I'm kind of back up at the very top of that report that we'd started with. I can also come in here and say, you know what? I'd like to rank to see who my top 10 customers are. I'm going to do that. I'm going to say, let's go back to my scroll, highlight name. And again, I just do a right mouse click. Let's go to our item properties. And I'm going to say, let's do ranking. And I'll rank this and I'll say, well, let's see, the default was 10. Let's make it different. I'm going to go with 7 just to be different. We'll say, okay. So here are my top 7 customers. Everything goes into that bucket called other. But again, it's that easy. Click, drag, drop, gets the data I want to see. Now I can highlight, I can do a right mouse click and say, let's select records using name. I can generate a pick list for name. For example, I click right there. You'll see here are all my names. I can come through here and go check, 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 check. Let's get rid of that. I can, let's get rid of company. Get rid of that one, highlight, it's gone. But again, it's just click, drag, drop. So any kind of report I want, if I said, okay, this data looks kind of interesting, I'd like to see how it looks as a chart. All I do is I click on my little chart icon right there, and we'll chart it in a new tab. And I'm going to say, okay, the default chart type is a line. And say, I don't want to look at it as a line. Let's look at it as a bar. So here's bar by year. I'll say, let's get rid of year for a second. Highlight year, hit delete, it's gone. So now we can see sales by customer by year. I'll say, that's still kind of hard to read. Let's make it a pie chart. Or maybe I want to make it a donut or a bubble or whatever. I just click, pick the options I want. I can also say, hey, let's create a link. So in any time somebody clicks on a slice of this donut, we're going to take them down to this next level report or the report after that. And the nice thing is I can pull in any report. I don't need to work with the same subset of data that I'm looking at right now. I can pull in purchases for this customer, or employees working on these product lines. I mean, anything I want, I can pull in. And then I can take these objects and publish them back to the launch pad. So I want to save a couple of minutes for questions. It looks like we've got several that have come in. The first question just says, what databases can we access with Cyberquery? Well, really, it's pretty much any database, whether it's SQL, whether it's Progress, Oracle, Informix, DB2, any remote, when anything that's got like an OData or an ODBC kind of access, we can access. We even got customers that are using data extracts that come from things like ADP or Paylocity, where again, they might want to combine data from their payroll system with, manufacturing to see, okay, we're paying, people this much of here's their direct time. Here's how much is being charged to this job versus that job or to non-direct jobs, whatever. So combining data from visual and other sources, very easy with Cyberquery.
Hey, Jim.
Yep, go ahead, Michael.
So I had some questions coming on my end. What are the biggest differences between Cybercore and some of the other tools available, like Smart Views or Power BI?
I know those are great questions. So the difference is really in the power. So with Cyberquery, you can do any kind of report you need. Production, combining data from different data sources, all levels of drill down. Now, Power BI does a great job of dashboards, and we have a lot of customers that use Cyberquery to prepare and present the data to Power BI. So again, Power or Cyberquery makes it a lot easier to combine data from multiple sources for the end user. You don't have to write SQL. It's all click and drag and generate those outputs that again the Power BI user may then pick up and present as part of their Power BI dashboard. Okay. Did you say you have another question, Michael?
Uh, I think that's it for me.
Okay. Okay. Great. So, hey, appreciate everybody's time, and we'll send you a survey, or there'll be a survey that pops up right as we finish this webinar. Please complete that. As part of the survey, you can request the PowerPoints we've used, a link to the recording of this session, as well as a link to download a copy of the software. But it's great having you guys all attend, and look forward to working with you. If you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to Michael or myself. Here's my contact information. Michael is 644. Help me out, Michael.
6441.
6441. So we're all there. Thank you very much.